I'd now like to introduce our student speaker, Andre Harte, who will be graduating tomorrow with majors in French and philosophy, neuroscience, psychology. He is an Irvine Scholar who has been involved in the Performing Art Department's productions, received the Excellence in French Studies Award, and he has served as co-captain of the improv comedy group Mama's Pot Roast. After graduation, he will return home to Cincinnati, Ohio, to continue his creative work developing a musical for a youth theater camp. He is also considering moving to France for several months to work with the teaching program. Please welcome Andre Harte to the podium.
Thank you, Feisty McLaughlin, and happy Mother's Day. My mom is somewhere out there. When I first arrived at WashU, I knew I wanted to study in the College of Arts and Sciences. And I knew I wanted to major in the subject I was most passionate about. Undecided. Studying everything and nothing. And now, 4 years later, I'm graduating with a degree in undecided. Okay, that's technically not true, but my majors are, as you heard, French and PNP colon LCC. 6 letters, philosophy, neuroscience, psychology on the language, cognition, and culture track. That's as close as it gets to graduating undecided. But that's also the beauty of the College of Arts and Sciences. We are all such nerds about so many disparate subjects that a major, or 2 majors, or even 2 majors and a minor couldn't encapsulate all of our interests. I love French, but I also love making music, and acting, and juggling, and I'm not a juggling major, even though that is kind of the vibe I give off. Everyone here has such novel, varied interests, partially because we in particular had more alone time than we could have possibly wanted to learn about ourselves and pick up some new hobbies. I know it's not fun to think about, but most of us were in the class of 2020 in high school. We didn't get to celebrate. We didn't get to prepare to move on to the next phase of life. It just happened. So, commencement tomorrow will carry the emotional weight of 2 graduations. Even for those of you who had a proper high school graduation, whether you're in a 3-2 program or graduating early or took a gap year, gap semester, or leave of absence, your experience was also far from normal. Our identity as the class of 2024 has been defined by isolation and heterogeneity. So what can be said about us as a group? We're resilient, sure, that's definitely true, but that says as much about our circumstances as it does about us. Resilience is not some virtue that is evenly distributed throughout society. Resilience is a response to adversity. For the most vulnerable populations, resilience is nothing more than survival. In the words of activist and researcher Vanita Srivastava, instead of calling people resilient, let's instead look at solutions for those things we should not have to be resilient for. So, what else can be said about us? One thing that goes without saying is that there's a lot we missed out on. During our first semester, we were constantly being told about these mythical places and events from the before times. People spoke of dining in at Ibby's, dancing at Wild, taking classes in a physical classroom. At the time, these things were as real to us as the lower half of strangers' faces. We knew they existed, but we couldn't really see them, so we had to kind of just imagine them and fill in all the fun details ourselves. And our imaginations were often inaccurate. Of course, things got better after that first semester, but even so, at our lowest moments, we're consumed by feelings of injustice and even envy because we didn't get to have the proper college experience. Our time here was entirely unique. No class after us will have the privilege of walking single file into a white tent to spit in a little plastic vial. No class after us will have giant plastic barriers up in Risa Commons so we can't hear what anyone's saying. No class after us will have to show their green check mark before they can enter these severely understaffed dining halls. I won't miss those things. But there is something positive that we alone experienced. We saw firsthand what it looks like to rebuild. We've kept clubs and organizations alive through their lowest moments and served as role models for the next set of leaders. Even if we don't get to reap the rewards of all that hard work, it doesn't go unnoticed. There are underclassmen, fellow seniors, and professors who have been moved by our efforts, even if they don't always say it out loud. We've also redefined the culture on campus. Mudfield, the spot that was once occupied by that aforementioned white saliva collection tent, is now the most picturesque postcard of college I've ever seen in my life. It almost looks staged. There's picnic blankets, speakers, frisbees. We are so happy to just be outside with fellow students on a sunny day. That's what defines our class. Not just resilience, gratitude. We don't take any of this for granted. When we say we're thankful for the time we have with our friends and family, we mean it. Because we know what it's like to not have that time. We know what it's like to have our victory lap taken away from us. That perfect prom, that senior trip, that last season on the team, that spring concert or musical. Everyone here has lost something or someone to COVID. We know that what we have matters. And we know that it can be taken away without warning. At every turn, we have been warned that our future is bleak, that we are entering a shrinking job market, that a third world war is on the horizon. But we do not need to be reminded that the future is uncertain or uncomfortable or, God forbid, unprecedented. We have seen that. We have felt it. Everything about our time here has been unprecedented. We are unprecedented. If the future is so unreliable, we will not sit idly by as it approaches. We will not let any institution silence us. We will focus on the present, and we will be radically empathetic and bold and attentive and kind and curious and intentional, and we will not back down because that is within our control, and that cannot be taken away from us. In the past few months, there's a sentiment that I've heard repeated over and over again. I wish we had hung out sooner. There are people I've gotten to know this past semester who I wish I could have met sophomore year. It feels like for our class, everything is coming together right now, just in time for us to say our goodbyes. And it's so painful and beautiful and frustrating. But we have to cut ourselves some slack. It's okay if you didn't make the most of your first couple of years here. It's okay if you didn't finish off your WashU bucket list. It's okay if you don't feel ready for this to end. I don't think we ever feel ready to move on to the next phase of life. It just happens. All we can do is adapt, persevere, and make the most of the time we have. And we, as a class, are very qualified for that task. It feels like we missed the end of high school. It feels like we missed the start of college. Now, we get to wake up every day and choose not to miss another minute of this life. So, in about 24 hours, when we're gathered with our fellow nerds at the university-wide commencement ceremony, look up. Try to be present, because none of us have it all figured out right now. In other words, we're all getting degrees in undecided. Thank you.